Welcome back, friends, to another episode of Lynch Paints, where I, Lynch, will be showing you all how to paint the iconic Airspeeder for Star Wars Legion. So let's grab our paints and paintbrushes and our pilot helmet and let's dive straight into it. But of course, before we start painting, we're going to need a selection of paints, and these are the ones that I've used in this video today, alongside which you will need a medium, large, sort of fluffy brush. You're going to need a medium size basing brush, a fluffy, there we go, focus, a fluffy little kind of dry brush here, and a teeny weeny tiny brush for those teeny tiny places. So, as usual, the first step with a lot of the Star Wars Legion stuff that I do, we're going to apply a white acrylic spray paint over the model. It's worth probably giving it a couple of layers just to make sure that it's nice and bright and vibrant. Now what we're going to do is going to grab some of this Apothecary white contrast paint. If you don't have this one in particular, then what you can do is that you can mix up a very light grey and use it as, and just water it down, use it as a wash. So, or you can just get one of the equivalent contrast-esque paints. And what we're going to do, we're going to get a nice medium-sized brush, and we are going to want to just slap a nice layer all over the miniature, just to darken it down a little bit. I'm just going to mix in a little bit of water just to thin it out and just help with the coverage as well. And this will help just to get into all the crevices and all the cracks and all the, pick out all the nice little details that are on the armor plates, and then we'll leave it to dry. So once the contrast paint has dried, we're then going to look at the two laser cannons. So I'm going to grab some of this Administratum Grey, and then just using a medium-sized brush, we're just going to give it a bit of a thin coat over the top. I have watered it down with a little bit of water, and then once it's dried, we'll give it a wash with a sort of a darker grey, or even a sort of black, just so then it stands out from the rest of the armour, but it's not too dissimilar. So I thought, just as the grey is drying, what we'll do is we'll take this Black Legion contrast paint and we will pick out a few of the darker areas. So we're going to focus on the vents at the back, probably the harpoon as well, and the big chunky vents there as well. So just a nice medium size or fine-ish detail brush. I think I'll probably need a little fine one just to get into the corner there, so I don't want any of this to overspill onto the nice bright white areas that we've done so far. So just take your time with this, and then hopefully by the time you've done this bit, the grey would be dry, and then we can put our wash over the top. So the black contrast paint has been applied, and because it's just going on the back, and with the nature of contrast paint being that you have to kind of apply it so nice and smoothly to get a nice smooth transition, it doesn't really matter too much about the back because it's going to be quite weather worn and battered and that sort of thing. So it doesn't matter if it's a little bit streaky, it will be just fine. So our grey is dried, we're going to grab some of this Null oil, and I'm just going to just put a bit onto my little makeshift palette and just thin it with a little bit of water, just so it's not too dark and too intense. Maybe a little bit more. There we go. And we are just going to apply this just over the sort of weapon slash engine barrels. I'm not too sure. I mean, that's the weapon there, but then that's the engine bugging out there. So I mean, they must take the power from the same source, I suppose. Don't really know. Anyway. So while we're waiting for some washes and some contrast paints to dry, what you can do is that you can have a look at the base. So this is what I've done previously, just while I was waiting for the white contrast paint to dry. And all I did was that I got a load of PVA glue and some normal basing sand, just fine grained stuff, and it had some of the like larger rocks in there as well. Slapped it all on, left it for a good few hours, and then what I did was that I took some of this storm vermin fur, mixed it in with a little black just to darken it up as the base colour, then dry brushed with just this, and then did a mixture of storm vermin fur and administration grey over the top. And then, as the final thing to tie it all in, is that I had some of this Valhalla Blizzard technical paint. So it's quite a thick, sort of clumpy paint, and you just sort of slap it on, and you can kind of like really work in. You can be really rough with it, and it creates a really, really lovely texture. There's loads of different sort of styles of snow effects, sort of paints or powders or that sort of thing, and any will do the job really. I used to use the powders on sort of terrain and that sort of thing, but I find that the Valhalla Blizzard, for me personally, is the better one to go for, just for doing smaller bases. Something like this, I should have probably used some of the leftover powder that I had left, but yeah, I ended up using maybe like half a pot on this single base, which was quite a lot, but I really quite like the texture that it provides at the end sort of thing. So that's something that you can work on while all this is drying. So once it's dried, we will look at dry brushing it white, and then we'll look at some of the windows as well. Right, so the washes and stuff are pretty much fully dry. They might be still a little bit wet in some places, but it's fine. We're just going to carry on. So, going to grab this white scar and a nice fluffy brush. And then we're just going to wipe the majority off of this. And we're going to dry brush pretty much everywhere, obviously apart from the black. So, the majority of the armour we're just going to cover with this. And it's going to pick up so the raised areas and just make it stand out a little bit more. Just going to move that over to here. And then, once we've done that, we can figure out how we're going to paint the windows. And I have a plan, I have an idea, so I'll share that with you in a bit. And so while we have the little dry brush, we're just going to add a touch of Abaddon Black with our sort of dry brushing mixture over here, just to make a very dark grey. And then this is what we're going to use to go over the weapon at the back, the harpoon, and also the vents at the back here as well. And also, while we've got the black and the nice fluffy brush, we're just going to start to build up a little bit of soot residue at the back here on these exhausts. So we're going to just work it in at the back, so build it up a little bit before just kind of finishing off with just using pure black. So we're going to start out with just a very dark grey, and then we're just going to build it up, and then just sort of be rough with it, just kind of stipple it if you have to, which is kind of doing that sort of motion. And yeah, because it's weathering, you don't have to be neat with it either, which is absolutely fantastic. So yeah, just put on as much or as little as you like as well with this. Also, what we can do is that while we have this brush and this you doing this kind of thing, is that we can go around some of the edges, just to create a little bit of sort of battle damage and sort of chip damage. So we can take sort of this area here, let's say, and just dabble a little bit on. Might want to do a little bit more. Work in there. Let's say this bit up here. sort of thing. Less tends to be more, but again it depends on how being up and battle damage you want your Airspeeder to be at the end. So just kind of just at random, just here and there, little bits. And then what you can do to create a sort of sense of motion is that you can, let's do an example maybe along here, is that you can just streak it back just a little bit. Just don't need to do too much, but if you just do a little bit, it will give the illusion of something that's hit it, and it's kind of, the impact blast has sent soot and debris across the hole, and it creates that nice little kind of streak look. So now that he is all nicely battle damaged and rough and ready, we're going to look at the windows. So I had an idea, and I've got some of this Glazing glaze. So I'm going to apply just a nice layer, maybe 2, over the windows. We'll just see how it goes first. So I'm just going to thin it down with a little bit of water. And then just apply it in. So I think that it should go pretty well, because I tend to use this Glazing glaze on the goggles for my Rebel Troopers. So it should work out pretty darn well. And obviously, like, the more you add, the more it will pool, so it should be darker towards the bottom and then lighter at the top, which is the sort of effect that I want to try and achieve. So just while that's drying, we're going to look at adding in a little bit more colour. So we're going to look at the stripes. So there's tend to be one that runs from here down to there, and then there's one that runs along the back across these panels. Now, from the artwork that I've seen, a lot of people tend to go with sort of reds, or I've seen some blues that look quite nice, but I haven't seen anyone as of yet go for a green. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. So I'm going to start out with Calibanite green and moot green, and then just with a fine detail brush, I'm just going to grab a blob of each. Oh, I need some more moot green. That's starting to coagulate. Clag up? I don't know, there's some kind of technical term for it, but it's getting thick is what it is. And there we go. It's probably about a 50-50 of the two. A bit darker, there we go. And then a little thinning with some water. We're going to start out just coming down the way. So what we'll do is that we'll just fill it in first, and then afterwards we can get some white and then just do like some chip damage. So all we would need to do that for is just making like just some little lines just going through onto the green, or some little sort of battle damage kind of chunks that are missing from it in the heat of battle. And it's really easy stuff, so we're just going to apply the first layer anyway, and then probably just build up the layers and also the colours as well. So we kind of build up from a dark green up to a nice lighter green near the top, and it should look pretty darn good. So one of the last things we're going to do is that we're going to go over just a few of the areas, just using a little bit of this Agrax Earthshade. So this is a very, very dark brown wash, and what it will do is that it will help to add in just a little bit of warmth into some of the areas So I'm going to start out with this grill, this kind of ventilation bit at the front, and then I'm going to use it just to create some streaks on certain areas, certain mechanical parts. And with this stage is entirely up to you of what you choose to add this brown wash to. You could decide to add it all over the guns, all over everywhere, that would be fine. You could add it over the barrels, the engine parts at the back, literally just wherever you like, really. So I just thought at the end of me sort of applying on that wash just then, the ends of the blasters, so we're just going to grab the same sort of fluffy brush that we had earlier and some of this black. We're just going to apply that sort of soot burnt laser fire sort of effect. Okay, so he is ready to ascend to the skies and take the fight to the Empire. So I'm just going to have him perched upon his stand and we'll do our little outro. So here we are at the end of the video. So this is how I went about painting the Airspeeder for Star Wars Legion for the Rebel faction. It's been on my list for months and months at this point. I've been trying to find one at a fair price, and I've finally been able to add one to my collection because it's such an iconic unit, especially when you think of The Empire Strikes Back, which is how I'm basing my Rebel and Empire forces on. You think of the ATSTs, the Tauntauns, which I've got a couple of at the minute, and of course the lovely Airspeeder. So the green worked out pretty well, so I think the second one that I will end up getting will either be maybe the reds, or I might try a purple. I mean, I'll just kind of see how I feel at the time, really. But if you wanted to pick up one of these for yourselves, or any sort of Star Wars Legion model, or any other sort of tabletop game or card game, then do check out my affiliate link for Wayland Games in the description. And anything that you order from there, a little bit goes towards helping me and supporting the channel, and it's just a great way to just help show your appreciation, really. And then that means I can sort of use that to select more projects to then show on the channel and show everyone at home. Another way to show your appreciation would be a like and subscribe, especially if you are new. That would be absolutely amazing. And also leave a comment down below which part was your favourite. Maybe if there was a way that I could have done something a little bit better or simplify it. Then do let me know. Any sort of comments like that will help me in future videos as well. If there's any kind of ways to doing things a little bit easier, let me know if the green works out for you, or if green is your favourite colour. I know that a good friend of mine, hand on heart, always says that green is the best colour ever, so I think he'd be happy with this one, that's for sure. So I also have a little coffee page as well. That's another way you can show your appreciation. So if you go and click on the coffee page and just chuck me a couple of quid, for a coffee, then that would be brilliant. I haven't been on there in a little while, so I might need to update my page over there. But yeah, if you want to just really feeling enthusiastic and showing your appreciation as much as you can, then do all those things and you'll be a legend, and I love you forever. So without further ado, stay safe, stay beautiful, and we'll see you next time.